Now, welcome back to this series, seeing how quickly we can turn £1,000 into £10,000. The last car we bought was this BMW 225, which we got for £1,000. We ended up fixing this up and we ended up selling it for a whopping £2,800, making a profit of £1,400 on the car, which is sick. Now, with the money left over, we bought this Focus ST225 and I got it for £1,800, which I thought was an absolute bargain until I got it home and I realised it was smoking really bad. So today we're going to figure out how bad it is and if it's potentially the engine that's gone. So the car is smoking. So in theory that can be one of 5 things. One, these engines are quite prone to having something that they call the liners, or that they crack. If the liner's cracked, the engine's gone. Number 2 is the stem seals have gone on the top end, which is doable, fixable. Pain, doable. Number 3 is the turbo. It could be the turbo that's gone, which would make sense why it's worse on boost. Number 4, it could be something to do with the PCV. And number 5, it could just be the fact that it's been sat for 2 or 3 years. There's just oil, residual oil sat in the exhaust and it's just burning it off. Could be something as simple as that. But we need to rule out the other 5 things, and we definitely don't want it to be anything wrong with the engine or the block. Now, if it is something wrong with the block, we're going to be in deep shit because I don't have the budget to buy another engine, so I really don't want it to be that. So the first thing we're going to do is a compression test. Now, this is going to actually just tell us the health of the engine and see if everything's working as it should. So the first thing we've got to do is remove all the coil packs and all the spark plugs. So this is a compression tester, and I'm not sure if you guessed by the name, but it tests compression. And now compression is a very vital part of the engine, and without compression it will not run. The good thing is this is actually running fine. It's running absolutely fine, which is good news. But potentially what could be happening if there's a cracked liner, that means there's a crack in the liner of the engine block, and it will be, especially when it gets hot, it will be expanding and it will be letting oil through and then potentially burning oil, and then that's why you see oil or coolant. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite clued up with these engines, but it will let either oil through or coolant through, and it will burn it through the back of the engine, and it will just keep burning it. So one way we can test for that is compression, because if it has got a crack in there, it's going to lose compression on that cylinder. What we're going to be looking for is consistency across all 5 cylinders. That is the main thing. If it's consistent, it's usually going to be in good condition. You can go online and you can get the specs of the compression, what it should be, and yours is either going to be lower than that or higher than that. But if it's not that much lower and they're all consistent, it will be fine. So we're going to get the compression of each cylinder, hope that they're consistent, and then we're going to check it against the good compression specs online and see whereabout it's running. It's difficult because compression can change with altitude and if the cylinders are wet and dry and blah 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 blah. So that's why consistency is usually the main thing to look for. Now, in the compression test, in theory, it's going to fill the cylinder with air and it should hold that pressure. If it doesn't hold the pressure or doesn't get enough pressure, it means that something somewhere has failed and the seals failed and we're losing compression, and that's going to let oil through or coolant through. So we're going to screw it into every cylinder and we're going to crank the car over around 5 to 10 seconds. So we're getting around 120 psi on the first cylinder, and that is okay, and it was going good until the 4th. So this is very bad news. Very bad news indeed. I don't really know why I'm laughing, to be honest, because it's really bad. Really bad. The reason an engine would be low compression on one cylinder is usually something like the rings, or it could be something on the head. Now, to determine whether it's something on the head or it could be something on the rings, you can pour oil down into the cylinder and that will basically create a seal around the rings. So if the compression increases, and then it's something up with the rings. If the compression stays the same, even though it's with a wet compression test, it's probably something on the head. But I know these engines suffer from cracked liners, so I'm not sure how the oil is going to affect a cracked liner. Will it fill in or will it stay the same? But we may as well do that test, because if it is something on the head, well, that's the thing. I don't know if the oil will actually change a cracked liner, because it's only really that I know these engines are really common for that.
So truth be told, I'm not fully sure what I'm looking for because I'm not sure how this would affect a cracked liner, and that is probably the issue. But we're going to do a wet compression test. So we're going to fill the cylinder with oil and see what the result is. Now, as you can see there, the compression jumped through the roof, which is just making me think more and more it is something to do with the rings, which is really not good. But there's one more thing we can try to see if we know exactly what it is.
So we've got a borescope here. Steve's just given me a borescope, so we can stick this into the cylinder and see if there's any kind of obvious damage, either to the piston, to the actual wall, the liner, or we've got a little special adapter which makes us look backwards, so we can look up to the head as well and check the valve seats and stuff. So I'm gonna have a little bit of a play, and we can see. Hopefully, we can see if we can see anything. It'd be really hard to see a crack in the liner, maybe through this camera, because it might just be a tiny crack. But we're gonna try our hardest and see exactly what it is.
Now, I did try to look for some obvious damage, mainly around the piston and the cylinder wall. Now, I couldn't really see any damage on the piston, and I couldn't really get the camera to work very well to look up against the cylinder walls or back against the head. But we've got low compression, and either way, the engine is kaput.
So I'm not gonna lie, this puts us in a bit of a shit situation, because we've only got £3 in the pocket, which means we've only got £1,000 left in to fix and sell it, which I don't want to break the rules of the series. The rules of the series was we can only use what we've got in the pot to fix and sell the cars. So I honestly don't know what we're going to do now. The only options we've got are, these are three options. One, we buy a new engine and put a new engine in it, which we can't. I don't think we can do, because you can barely get an engine for £1,000. Barely get an engine for £1,000. Most of them are 1,500, £2,000. There's a couple on Facebook which are like 800 quid on Aries offers, but I genuinely think probably something's wrong with them. Tear the engine apart and just try to replace the things that are broken. So maybe we get a bottom end and we use the head that we've already got. That is an option. Or the last option is to break the whole car and see how much money we can make with the parts.
Now, this is where I made one phone call to a friend called Darren at BD Performance. He deals with these cars day in, day out. He's been working with them for years. My question was, are these cars worth anything in parts? Is it actually worth breaking it? His answer was no, but it was followed by an amazing gesture of bring the car up and we can see what we can do with it. So really, with no other option, we loaded the Focus on a trailer ready to take the long drive up to Wales, and this is where disaster number 2 happened. So an hour into the journey, I get a charging fault on the X5. Got it to Halfords and got them to do a test on it. I thought it was the alternator, and it definitely is the alternator. So I'm at GSF and I'm praying they've got an alternator in stock. Praying. So this Focus is cursed. I'm blaming the Ford. Every time I bought a Ford, it's gone wrong. And now not only is the car itself going wrong, it's giving horrendous energy and it's fucking everything else up. Because nobody's got a alternator. We're stranded in Hemel Hempstead with the X5 and no one's got an alternator. The only places, there's 4 GSFs in the whole country that have got the alternator in stock. Can you believe that? It's an N57 diesel BMW engine. Why have you not got these alternators in stock? It is absolutely crazy. And we're stranded. Can't get an alternator anywhere. No Euros, no Napas, no GSFs, no one's got them in stock. Trying to... fucking honestly. Okay, so... we have a guy called Luca who works... oh, hang on. We've got a guy called Luca who works at Euro Car Parts, and he has found that there is an Euro Car... I'm gay. So there is a Euro Car Parts in Wembley which has an alternator. Now, we have one of Jesse's friends called Paul, thank you very much, who's going to drive into Wembley and bringing it to us. So... somehow we might have got away with this because it's Saturday, and we got a trailer on, and it's just not ideal. So I'm gonna get the alternator off. Well, I'm not gonna fully take it off. I'm just gonna mainly take it off. And when Paul has the part in his hands, I'm gonna take the alternator off. So the alternator sits here, which is very lucky, because if this was a transporter or something and right at the bottom of the engine, it would be a bad day. So luckily the alternator is just here. So we've got a bolt here and a bolt down there. The tension is going to be a little bit tricky to get to with all this shit in the way, but we should be able to do it. We've got the positive ground here, which is quite a simple design. So we've got a plug there as well. So it shouldn't be too bad. So I'm going to just mainly get the belt off and just free it off. Hopefully when the part is here, we can just go whack whack, and then we can change it. Also, these alternators, I was just about to pay £450 in GSF for an alternator, which is absolutely crazy. So Luca at Euro Car Parts has got us one for £350, and we get £50 back when we return our old unit. So 300 quid, which isn't horrendous, but it's not what I thought I'd be spending today. Got the alternator off. Wasn't too bad, bit of a bastard. Massively got stuck on it. It's like, you can see where it was like pretty much welded to itself, so I had to really crack that off. And we're up and running. The new alternator is on. The bitch getting the bloody the belt back on. Really big bitch. But let's continue with our journey with the cursed Focus. Now I'm glad to say the X5 did make it. We drove to my mum's house, which is about 40 minutes from BD Performance, had a good night's sleep, and we got to BD bright and early, ready for the day. If you've owned a Ford, or even if you've not owned a Ford, you would have heard of BD Performance. They are absolute giants in the industry. They have built some crazy cars, loads of them way over 1,000 horsepower, and you've definitely seen these on YouTube over the years as well, whether it's been on my channel, their own channel, or channels like Living Life Fast and other similar ones as well. So, sorry, I'm out of breath. Been running the tools in and out. So we've come to BD Performance. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you've seen that we've used the expertise of BD for quite a few different cars actually, and they're amazing here. And this is the first time I've actually bought a car to them, which is their speciality. They've been building Mark II Focuses and other Focuses, especially Fords, for so many years. And before I jumped into anything hastily about trying to get a second-hand engine, I brought the Focus to these to see what it actually is, if it's fixable, and if we do need a new engine, which is probably the case. But when it comes to these guys, I want to fully go over all the options of what we can do. Now, if there's a way we can fix this, these guys are going to know how to do it. We're going to strip the engine down fully, and we're going to get these guys to basically walk us over why this happens, how often it happens, what can you prevent this from happening, what's the course of fixing, basically all these things that I don't know, so I've never had a Focus. These guys are going to be able to tell us that. So we've got the car on the ramp. We booked it in for a couple of days. Let's see how bad it really is. So how bad of a problem are cracked liners on these cars? How bad is it? I've heard of it, but like, seriously, from you, how bad is it?
Crack. Crack. Crack, 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 crack. I've done about between 700 and 800.
100 block mods
in like the 8 years that I've been here.
8 years, so that's about 100 block mods a year. And that's just you?
That's just me, yeah.
Oh, probably a lot of people are asking, what is a block mod? Right, we'll get out of this room because it's terrible lighting. So, as I was saying when I bought the Focus, one of the biggest problems on these cars are cracked liners. That's what they call a cracked liner. Now, a liner sits, he's just getting an engine to show us, but a liner is basically what sits around the piston, so the piston goes up and down in. Now they crack, and what happens then if they crack is that they actually leak coolant. Is it just coolant into the cylinder, or can it leak oil in?
No, just coolant mainly.
Just coolant, okay, so it leaks coolant into the cylinder, and then that pressurizes the whole system, and it'll constantly burn coolant, and does it overheat because of this eventually? No, the symptom is just burns coolant.
The symptom that you get is you drive it, be normal, fine. You'll come to start it in the morning, and it'll be misfiring and you get smoke.
Right.
After a minute or so, it'll clear, and you're like,
oh,
fine. That's the symptom.
And then that'll just repeat daily?
Daily, yeah.
Until you just keep losing coolant?
Yeah, because that's what eventually will happen. The coolant will go down.
Right, okay.
Go down, go down, go down, and you're like, top it up.
Right.
Keep going down, top it up, keep going down.
So mine doesn't necessarily show those symptoms. Mine smokes
all the time. So this is a standard block.
So obviously you see these are the shims.
That's it.
That's it, yeah.
That is the block mod.
Yeah.
Right. I thought it was a big. Right, and that's it.
That's it.
So without those shims, there's a gap there.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the block mod.
So that's the shim.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that just literally
Straight in there, yeah.
straight. Just hammer it in. That's it. You don't
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
keep them.
no, soft hammer.
Yeah.
Go straight in.
Right. So without these, there's a little hole.
There's a
little
gap, yeah.
And what does that gap do then?
We don't know. We think that they've done it for cooling.
Right.
Or something, but
Right. And
Why?
then that gap allows it to expand and oval out.
yeah, obviously, you know, if when that's not there, they close up.
Yeah.
When they close up, that's it. They crack.
Right.
They don't actually, to be honest with you, they don't need to close up to crack. They just crack.
Right.
But when they're bad, they close up.
Where do you usually see the crack? Is it always in the same place? Or?
No, so it's always in between. So that's like the weakest
So
spot.
it won't be on the bore. It'll be here.
Yeah. So if you have a look,
Right.
if you have a look at that one.
Yeah.
Number 2. You see
Yeah.
it?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
no. Yeah. See it?
I can see the crack.
So there.
Yeah. And that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, I won't even be able to get that on camera. It is so
yeah.
tiny. So and that's it.
So
And that means the engine's gone.
Yeah. So again.
Jesus
So again,
Christ.
this chap came in
Yeah.
for a block mod.
And that was already cracked.
It was already cracked.
So it's bad. It's a big issue.
We see loads of them, yeah, and it's not slowing down.
Right.
Yeah, we get loads. You know, sometimes you know it's there and they come in for an engine. Sometimes they just come in for a block mod, and unfortunately they're already cracked and they didn't even know about it. That's
Yeah.
the hard part.
So we are here to see what is wrong with my engine, and seeing all the engines lying around which are knackered, I'm not filled with confidence, so let's let them get to work and see what it is.
So what's the first thing we're gonna do?
I'm probably going to get the camera out, to be honest with you, just to see if there's anything glaringly obvious, because obviously if we can see, like, I don't know, half a piston missing or something really, really obvious, it's kind of pointless going down further with investigation stuff like compression tests and stuff. It's just a waste of time. So
Right.
we'll get the camera down initially and see if there's anything really obvious that we can see and go from there, I think.
Right. So is that the cylinder wall?
Can't see a crack, but there's definitely a leak.
Oh, there's a leak. And that's coolant, is it, by the looks of it?
Well, I mean, that's like corrosion, isn't it? Where it's been probably leaking under pressure.
Oh, right.
They corrode really quickly.
But you're saying, oh, there you go, but I don't know what I'm looking at.
So you've just pressurised. We've just
Yeah.
pressurised the system.
Okay,
now
yeah.
we can see coolant instantly coming
Oh, yeah, I can
out
see
past
it
the head
bubbling.
gasket. Yeah.
So it's a head gasket?
Oh, we've definitely got a head gasket failed.
Right.
Just moved along another cylinder to the one that you haven't really studied, and
Yeah.
that's got water passing the gasket as well instantly. That's where the water's been trickling down. So basically, once you turn the engine off and the coolant system's still under pressure, the engine's hot, that'll be dribbling down. You know, a cylinder wall will rust almost instantly as soon as it's in contact with water.
Right, really?
So, it's enough for it to corrode overnight, certainly, for it to corrode.
Really? And do permanent damage?
Yeah, leave marks on the bores like that, yeah.
So what looks like has happened so far is the head gasket has failed at some point, and it's been leaking coolant into the cylinders, and it's been doing that so badly and for so long that it's actually rusted the inside of the cylinder walls, that the rings are not sealing anymore, and that's why it's burning oil and it's burning coolant. Long story short, the engine is ruined and it's gonna have to come out of the car.
Let's get it out.
Let's get it out!
So come and join us in the next episode where we strip the engine out of the Focus, strip it fully down, see exactly what's going on, and figure out how the hell we're going to fix this problem and make a profit still out of this damn car.